ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply. Today we're going to update on the Goni Nano Reef. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. I've been asked time and time again for an update on this tank. This is the 14-gallon Hello Reef Nano Reef tank, which I've kind of somewhat dubbed the Goni Nano Reef, as it's primarily Gonioporias inside of here. Now, I still got my 2 clownfish in here, and these guys have been doing great. They're super easy. They're the only fish in the tank, and the rest are just inverts. As for the Gonis, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. A few of them are actually kind of buried under the rock, and a few fell into the sand, so I did a bit of cleanup last night just to kind of get things back in check. And I still do have a bit of hair algae in here, which I am fighting. If I would have taken my own advice and done the daily treatments, it probably would be all gone by now, but it's been a very kind of sporadic one. But it is definitely much better than it was, but still a bit more to go. Now, the majority of the Gonis in here are pretty happy. There is 1 or 2 that are not quite in their prime right now. It's partially because they did get a bit buried. If you take a look at that one guy, you can kind of see fell into the sand. There's a little bit of die off in the front. There's still some tissue there, so I do think it will come back and start to pop back out. And staying with the one up in the top there, that guy kind of fell in the crack between the rocks, so there is a couple just little bit of maintenance that need to be done on these ones. Some of the ones that are kind of fully out in the rock and just kind of encrusting, like little micro Gonis, those guys have been doing awesome. Same with some of these really long polypy ones. Did give it a bit of a water change last night and a couple spot treatings with hydrogen peroxide just to do a little more cleanup on some of the algae, which seemed to do a good job. And this one thing, I should be taking my own advice, and if I did that daily for a week or 2, it'd probably have fixed all my issues by now. But overall, it's pretty good. Now, this is kind of like my office nano reef. I do have the big tank in here as well, so I have been playing with the idea of taking this to my actual office. So this may end up being in my work office once we move into the new building in a couple months. So it might be kind of cool to have like a work nano reef in that one, but it might be kind of a cool way to do it and get reef tanks in more places in my life. Who doesn't want to sneak some tanks into the places where you spend most of your time, right? Camera doesn't quite pick it up, but some of these guys have some pretty awesome coloration. This is probably the most questionable one in the tank. As you can tell, it doesn't really have much for polyps. They're mainly sucked in. And I think that one was actually an Alveopora, so we'll see if we can get that one to come back or not. I'm going to try and force target feed a bit and see if I get it back out. But the rest of them are still fairly polypy, and overall pretty happy. I did just move a couple things in the tank, so the polyps did suck in a little bit, but for the most part, the rest of them are pretty happy inside of here. This guy tends to hide a lot, but the fire shrimp's pretty awesome. Especially when they get under the blues, those little white legs just pop like crazy. Do love these guys. I wish they were a little more bold, but say Livy. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to find it right now, but one of my sexy shrimp did make it into the back chamber, and he's been living back there half the time I see him on the heat or whatnot. So I'm going to have to see if I can get a tiny net and kind of rescue mission him and get him back in the tank one day soon. For the glass cleaner, I did pick up this little Goni Nano one, and it actually works surprisingly well for how tiny it is. So if you do have a nano tank, I definitely recommend this guy. It's relatively low profile and nice strong magnet, so it does a great job cleaning the glass. Now, the only really pest I have in this tank would be those tiny little feather dusters. Now, they are a little prolific in this tank. They did come in one of the zoophags I got off somebody, and they're kind of taken over, but at least they stay pretty tiny, so it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. But the rest of the inverts seem to be pretty happy and doing their thing. It's just such a cool thing to have all these little creatures like the sexy shrimp and, the pom-pom crabs and all those little funky guys. Looks like the pom-pom crab must have did last night with the water change. And the mocha storms, these guys are super friendly and bubbly. They are always up around the tank. Now, gear-wise, I've done a pretty good job of keeping things pretty simple on this tank. I've tried to keep it as simple as I could, and so far I think I'm winning. So for actual running the tank, I do have my one DIY Voss container, and this is with Ultra Reef, and that is connected to a little Versa hiding on the back of the tank. And that doses about 3 mils a day of Ultra Reef, which gives my elk, my calcium, my mag, my trace elements. So that takes care of all my dosing for the corals. For the lighting, we got the AI blade. Aside from that, I have a Eheim Jagger heater, and we have a Tunzi ATO, and I have the Axis 40 return pump, and that's it. So pretty simple. I think I'm at 4 plugs for everything. And yeah, so I don't know. I've had a goal of keeping this tank super simple, at least for now. Maybe we'll get fancy later, but I usually go a little crazy high tech. So this one I'm like, yeah, let's keep it basic for a while. If I move this to the work office, or I'm only there a couple days a week, I will probably up the automation and add auto feeders, and maybe I'll put a controller on it so I can remotely check on it. But as long as it's living on my office desk at home, I figure I'll keep it pretty simple. The other kind of cool thing with this one is in the mornings the sun comes in and it'll actually shine down and light up some of the coral in the sand bed, and that looks super cool. I love that time in the morning. Alright guys, you asked for an update, so I want to give you guys a quick update on the Goni Hello Reef Nano Reef, and hopefully that kind of lets you guys see where things are at. Again, if you know of any really cool inverts that I don't have in here, let me know, because I'm on the hunt for more. I just think it's such a cool excuse to put, tiny little creatures in here that would otherwise get lost in a big tank. Now this may stay on my desk here, it may move to my actual office. We'll see, I'm still debating that one. We'll see what its future holds in the next few months. As for the gear on this one, if you do want to grab any of it, I will throw some sponsored links in the description to all the gear I have on it. And again, I've been trying to keep it pretty simple, and so far so good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. As always, if you did, hit that like button if you're new, make sure you subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next update.